What if I told you you don't have to leave the Pacific Northwest to live a peaceful, affordable life, even on a Social Security check? Yeah, I'm serious. While everyone's talking about escaping to Mexico or Portugal, the truth is, you can still find comfort, safety, and fresh mountain air right here at home, where pine trees meet the Pacific and coffee shops still know your name. In 2026, the average Social Security check sits around $1,985 a month. Not bad unless you're trying to pay rent in Seattle, where that might barely cover a parking spot. But the good news, there are still pockets of paradise in Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, where that same check buys you a decent apartment, warm neighbors, and maybe even enough left over for a slice of pie and a fishing license. And before you ask, no, Alaska didn't make the cut. Still beautiful, still wild, still too cold, and way too expensive to get to the doctor. In today's video, we're keeping things simple and real. We'll look at 5 towns across the Pacific Northwest where you can live or retire comfortably on less than $1,900 a month. We're talking rent, utilities, food, transportation, and cell service. That's it. No health care because that number's different for everyone. So grab your coffee, get cozy, and let's see where your Social Security check still stretches like it's 1999. Hit that like button and tell me at the end which state would you pick for your next peaceful Chapter 5. Astoria, Oregon. Let's start with a town that feels like it was pulled straight out of a movie because, well, it actually was. Welcome to Astoria, Oregon, the misty, time-worn gem sitting right at the mouth of the Columbia River, where the Pacific Ocean breathes fog over rolling hills and wooden houses that have seen more history than most cities twice their size. This is where The Goonies was filmed, where seagulls scream over the docks, and every street corner looks like a postcard from the 1980s that never faded. Walk through downtown early in the morning, and you'll feel it, that soft, salty mist clinging to your jacket, the faint hum of fishing boats out on the water, the creak of old timber under your shoes. It's peaceful, cinematic, and just a little haunting in the best way possible. The kind of place where people still nod at you when you pass by, where a foggy morning coffee feels like part of the local religion. Astoria is small, about 10,000 souls, and that's what keeps it human. No rush hours, no fancy tech parks, just the sound of the tide and maybe the whistle of a ship sliding upriver. So why is it still affordable? Because it's far enough from the chaos of Portland, about a 2.5-hour drive, that tourists come for the weekend and leave before sunset. The rental stock is older, the neighborhoods are filled with creaky porches and flower boxes instead of condos and cranes, and that means prices haven't skyrocketed yet. The essentials, groceries, utilities, even a pint at the local brewery hover right around the national average. It's the kind of stability that makes budgeting feel almost relaxing. If you're keeping score, here's what your monthly budget looks like in this fog-kissed coastal town. A 1-bedroom apartment for around $1,050, utilities at $180, food at $500, transportation $55, and cell service $63. That brings you to a grand total of roughly $1,848 a month. And yes, that's still under the magic $1,900 line. But numbers don't tell the whole story here. On Sundays, the streets come alive with the Astoria Sunday Market, rows of local artists, fishermen selling their catch, straight off the truck, live bands playing blues or country, while people sip on craft beer and pretend it's still the 1990s. There's a charm to this place that money can't buy. Locals love to joke that Astoria is where the river meets the sea, and the rent still kinda makes sense. You can walk to the Maritime Museum and watch ships glide past the Columbia Bar, known to sailors as the graveyard of the Pacific, or hike up to the Astoria Column for one of the best views in Oregon, a 360-degree panorama of forest, river, and ocean that'll make you forget every rush-hour commute you've ever sat through. At night, the fog rolls back in, wrapping the town in quiet like a blanket. The streetlights glow through the mist, and you realize this is the kind of peace you can't put a price tag on. So if you like your mornings foggy, your neighbors friendly, and your rent somewhere south of 2 Grand Astoria, Oregon, might just be the perfect start to your new chapter. 4. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. If paradise ever decided to settle down somewhere quiet, it would probably pick Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Nestled in the northern panhandle of the state, this lake town glimmers like a sapphire dropped in the middle of endless pine forests. Sunset Magazine once called it the Lake Tahoe of the North without California prices, and once you see it, you'll understand why. Imagine emerald hills rolling into a turquoise lake, eagles soaring overhead, and a boardwalk that stretches right above the water, the kind of view that makes you take a deep breath and think, yeah, this is living. Summers here are the kind of slow magic that city life forgot. Mornings start with locals paddling across glassy water or sipping coffee on porches facing the misty hills. By noon, the lakefront hums with laughter, kayaks gliding by golfers chasing the perfect swing, and ice cream dripping down waffle cones the size of your hand. The main street, Sherman Avenue, feels like a time capsule, vintage storefronts, bookshops that smell like cedar and paper, and friendly strangers who still hold doors open. And here's the surprise, living here won't empty your wallet. Sure, the million-dollar lake houses make great postcards, but just a few blocks inland, life is still comfortably affordable. A one-bedroom runs around $975 utilities, $175 food, $480 transportation, $62, and phone $65. Total. About $1,757 a month. Not bad for a lakeside life with mountain air and postcard sunsets. It gets even better. Idaho doesn't tax Social Security income. That's free money staying in your pocket every month, and in a world where every penny counts, that's a quiet kind of freedom. It means you can spend on what really matters: fresh local produce at the Saturday market dinner by the lake, or maybe a round at the Coeur d'Alene golf course, home to the world's only floating green. But Coeur d'Alene isn't just a pretty face. It's a community that still feels personal. People wave when they drive past. Neighbors bring over pies just because. And when June rolls around, the entire town comes alive for the Coeur d'Alene Classic Car Show, a summer ritual of roaring engines, shining chrome, and 1960s rock and roll echoing through the streets. For a weekend, nostalgia rules the road. As the seasons turn, the rhythm of life shifts gently. Autumn wraps the lake in amber and gold. Winter sprinkles snow over the roofs, turning coffee shops into little sanctuaries of warmth and conversation. Spring wakes the forest again, and with it a new reason to stay. There's no pretension, no hurry, just stillness, friendliness, and space to breathe. Like one old-timer told me as he leaned against his pickup, watching the lake shimmer in the afternoon light. If you love classic cars, crisp air, and neighbors who still wave, this right here is paradise for under $1,900. And somehow, standing there, you know he's absolutely right. 3. Florence, Oregon. There's something poetic about places where rivers meet the sea, and Florence, Oregon is one of them. This little coastal town sits where the Siuslaw River slips quietly into the Pacific, framed by rolling dunes and evergreen hills. It's the kind of place that looks like it should come with a background soundtrack, waves breaking in slow rhythm, the cry of distant gulls, and somewhere the hiss of coffee brewing in a tiny cafe overlooking the water. Florence isn't loud or flashy. It's an old soul wrapped in salt air. The town's historic bridge arches gracefully over the river, one of Oregon's oldest and most photographed. Its streets are lined with antique shops, art galleries, and weathered wooden buildings that glow gold under the afternoon light. Here the pace of life is measured not in minutes, but in tides. Mornings smell of sea spray and fresh espresso, evenings of pine smoke and salt wind. And when the sun dips behind the dunes, the sky turns a violet hue that no filter could ever capture. So how can a place this peaceful still be affordable distance? Florence sits far enough from Oregon's big-name resort towns like Cannon Beach or Lincoln City to dodge the tourist tax. That means fewer crowds, smaller homes, and lower prices, especially for retirees who crave simplicity over status. The town has several small, independent retirement communities, not luxury estates, but places where people garden fish or just walk the beach at sunrise without paying a fortune to do it. Healthcare covered. Peace Harbor Medical Center is modest but reliable, the kind of hospital where the nurses actually remember your name. Utilities and groceries hover close to national averages, and housing stays manageable. The numbers tell the story: rent about $940 utilities, $168 food, $500 transport, $58 phone, $64 total, around $1,730 a month. That's life on the Oregon coast, for less than $2,000, with sunsets thrown in for free. But numbers alone don't describe what Florence feels like. It's a town where retirees joke that they're retired but not expired, and they mean it. Every May, the streets bloom with color for the Rhododendron Festival, one of Oregon's oldest parades. You'll see classic cars decked out in flowers, marching bands playing old swing tunes, and locals waving from porches draped in blossoms. It's charming in that small-town, heartwarming way, like watching Americana breathe again. Life here follows nature's rhythm. When storms roll in off the Pacific, locals gather at the docks to watch waves crash against the jetty, sipping hot chocolate like it's a ritual. When summer returns, the dunes beckon endless golden sand that shifts and dances in the wind. You can rent a dune buggy or just stand at the crest looking down at the wild coast below, thinking how lucky you are to call this view home. Florence is a reminder that sometimes slowing down isn't giving up, it's catching up with yourself. It's not a resort. It's not a secret. It's simply real. And for anyone looking to trade chaos for calm, this little town on the edge of the sea proves that peace doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be chosen. 2. Wenatchee, Washington. Welcome to Wenatchee, proudly known as the apple capital of the world. Tucked right between two mountain ranges and resting alongside the Columbia River, this small city glows with a kind of quiet energy that feels both rural and alive. When spring arrives, the entire valley turns white, not from snow, but from millions of apple blossoms painting the hillsides like clouds that decided to settle on earth. By autumn, those blossoms have turned into orchards heavy with fruit, and the air smells faintly of cider and sun-warmed apples. Wenatchee isn't a place of skyscrapers or rush hours. It's a town where tractors still outnumber Teslas, and neighbors greet each other by name. The main street winds past cozy diners, family-run wineries, and fruit stands overflowing with pears, cherries, and peaches, all grown just a few miles away. You'll find murals celebrating the valley's harvest weekend markets, selling homemade pies, and a river walk that makes you want to take your time not just to exercise but to breathe. Life here costs less because it grows from the soil itself. This is the heart of Washington's agricultural belt, and that means food prices are about 7 to 10% lower than the national average. A quick drive to a farm stand or a local cooperative saves you money and gives you produce that still smells of morning dew. Housing stays down to earth, too. Being 2.5 hours east of Seattle helps a lot. The same rent that would buy you a tiny apartment near Puget Sound gets you a roomy one-bedroom here for around $950. Add utilities, $178 food, $470 transport, $59, and phone $62, and you're looking at a total of roughly $1,719 a month. That's your whole life with fresh air and mountain views included. Wenatchee's charm isn't just affordability, it's attitude. Locals like to joke we trade traffic for tractors and never look back. It's true. Instead of sirens, you hear irrigation sprinklers clicking in the fields. Instead of streetlights reflecting on skyscrapers, you get sunsets bouncing off the Cascade Mountains. And instead of city gyms, there's the Silver Sneakers Club, a group of retirees who meet every morning to walk the Riverside Trail, swapping stories as the sun climbs above the ridge. Safety and community come naturally here. Crime rates are low, streets are spotless, and there's a kind of civic pride that shows up in small gestures. A bench freshly painted, a park blooming with volunteers' flowers, a farmer stopping to wave as you pass. In winter, Wenatchee turns into a snow globe scene with twinkling lights and hot cider festivals that make you forget how cold it gets. By summer, the town bursts back into color wine tastings, orchard tours, and open-air concerts along the Columbia. Wenatchee may not have the fame of Seattle or the nightlife of Portland, but what it does have is something far rarer: balance. It's a place where you can wake up to birdsong, buy breakfast straight from the hands that grew it, and end the day with a glass of local wine watching the river shimmer in the evening light. For those looking for peace without isolation, beauty without pretense, and a full life under $1,900 a month, Wenatchee quietly delivers one apple blossom at a time. 1. Baker City, Oregon. Step off the highway into Baker City, Oregon, and it feels like time slows down, or maybe even rewinds a century. This is the kind of place where every brick, every lamppost, every wooden storefront has a story. Once nicknamed the Queen City of the Mines, Baker City rose during the gold rush, when dreamers came chasing fortune and stayed for freedom. Today, it's one of the most beautifully preserved small towns in the entire Pacific Northwest, a living museum surrounded by mountains and sky. Walk through downtown, and you'll pass more than 100 Victorian-era buildings, iron balconies, hand-painted signs, the glow of antique streetlights. The old Eltram Theater still lights up its marquee, showing classic films to locals who'd rather watch Casablanca than the latest superhero flick. Beyond the streets, the Elkhorn Mountains tower in the distance, snow-capped peaks that catch the evening light like silver. At sunset, the whole town turns golden, and for a moment, you could swear you've stepped straight into an old Western movie. What keeps Baker City so affordable is its scale: fewer than 10,000 residents, no traffic jams, no luxury developments, and no inflated housing market. Old houses come cheap, utilities stay moderate, and the rhythm of life never feels rushed. Your monthly cost here: rent, around $850 on utilities, $165 food, $490 transportation, $58, phone $63, roughly $1,591 in total. That's small-town comfort, mountain views, and fresh-baked bread from Leo's Bakery all included. Tourism trickles through, not floods in. Travelers stop to visit the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center, where wagon ruts from the 1800s still mark the hills, or they grab breakfast at a diner that's been around since Eisenhower was president. Locals wave, waitresses remember your name, and the guy fixing your car probably went to school with the mayor. It's the kind of place where community still means something. And once a year, the quiet town wakes up with pride. Every July, Baker City throws its biggest party, the Miners' Jubilee, a festival that celebrates its Wild West roots with parades, rodeos, live music, and laughter echoing through the streets. Families line the sidewalks with lawn chairs, kids wave tiny flags, and country bands play into the summer night. For one weekend, the town feels alive with the spirit of the old frontier, not as nostalgia, but as identity. Life here is simple, but rich in air, in history, and connection. You can sip coffee on your porch, watch the mountains blush pink at dawn, and know that peace doesn't have to cost a fortune. As one local told me, smiling beneath his cowboy hat, "If you love small-town charm and big skies, this is your $1,600 dream come true." And standing there watching the sunset pour over Main Street, it's impossible to argue with that. The Pacific Northwest isn't just about tech billionaires, glass towers, or $4,000 rents. Beyond the traffic, beyond the noise, there are still corners of this land where life moves at the pace of the wind in the pines. Places where $1,900 a month doesn't mean survival. It means freedom. It means you wake up to clean airwave, to neighbors who still remember your name, and end the day watching the sky melt into colors no skyscraper will ever see. Because here, peace is not a luxury. It's a way of living. Maybe it's a foggy morning in Florence, the smell of salt and coffee drifting through the air. Maybe it's Wenatchee, where apple blossoms cover the hills and rivers shine like silver ribbons. Or maybe it's Idaho Falls, where mountains guard the horizon, and the nights are so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat. These towns remind you that happiness doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be real. So tell me, which town would you choose? Would you go for the misty charm of Florence, the mountain-ringed calm of Wenatchee, or the sunny, easy rhythm of Idaho Falls? Drop your pick in the comments below. I read every one of them. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, because next time we're heading somewhere new, maybe the Southwest, where the desert sunsets will take your breath away. Until then, breathe deep, live slow, and remember, the good life doesn't have to cost a fortune. It just has to feel like home.